A very good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Singaram. In today's short session, I am going to discuss about the COVID 19 questions which appeared in the recent exams. This includes the FMG exam as well as the recently conducted institute exam. As you all know, we are in an ongoing pandemic of COVID 19, and it is very essential that every medico knows the information about this particular disease. And from the academic aspect, in the competitive exams, you definitely expect questions based on this COVID 19. So let us get started with today's session. The first question is a 43-year-old male returned from abroad and after a week develops breathing difficulty with loss of smell and taste. Which is the next best line of investigation? Sorry for this is the next best line of investigation. Is it sputum examination, nasopharyngeal swab, CT chest, or bone marrow biopsy? Returned from abroad, that means from a foreign country, to emphasize this particular COVID-19 infection. Not only that, he is also substantiating with the complaints. What are the complaints? Breathing difficulty. Yes, we all know that any person who is having fever or respiratory complaints at this time should be a suspected case of COVID-19. And especially with the travel history, your suspicion becomes even more higher. Now look at the next one. He is also having loss of smell and taste. Okay, something like this. Loss of smell is anosmia. It's actually not loss of taste but an abnormal taste sensation, what we call it as a dysgeusia. Even though they are reported as symptoms of COVID-19 infection, they're not very specific or telling you that it is only COVID-19, because they can also be seen in other types of infection also. Anyway, at some point of time, I think this symptom of anosmia and dysgeusia was emphasized so much, so that is why they may have given this in the actual question itself. Anyway, as of now, remember, any person with a travel history, any person with fever, any person with breathing difficulty, and any person with cough, you should always suspect COVID-19 infection. Now the question is, if you are suspecting COVID-19 infection, what is the next best line of investigation? I think all of you will know the answer for this. Answer is among the options provided. It is nasopharyngeal swab examination. Okay, you are going to collect the material from the nasopharyngeal swab, put it in a viral transport medium, VTM. What is this VTM? It is actually Hank's balanced salt solution along with the addition of gentamicin and amphotericin B to inhibit the growth of bacteria. Okay, so it's a Hank's balanced salt solution along with antibiotics. That's a viral transport medium. And once you have done this in the lab, what is the test you are going to do to detect this COVID-19? Yes, which is the gold standard test? That's what I am asking. The gold standard test is always going to be RT-PCR. Okay, so the best investigation always is going to be RT-PCR for diagnosis of COVID-19 infection. There can also be a question in future regarding what is the best sample for detection of COVID-19 infection. Remember, the best sample is going to be bronchoalveolar lavage with reported positivity rate of 93%. This is followed by sputum examination, which is around 70%. This is followed by the nasopharyngeal swab. Okay, nasopharyngeal swab. You can also do a oropharyngeal swab, but nasopharyngeal swab is what is commonly done. Okay, oropharyngeal swab also is commonly done. Here the positivity rate is around 63%. Okay, right. So bronchoalveolar lavage followed by sputum followed by swab. Okay, right. Now bronchoalveolar lavage, obviously you know that it is very difficult. It's an invasive procedure, so it's not commonly done. Sputum requires special techniques, so that is why it is also not commonly done. So which is going to be commonly done? It is a nasopharyngeal swab or the oropharyngeal swab. The next question is something like this. They are given a picture like this and they have asked, identify the following test done in a person with suspected COVID-19 infection. Okay, some of the students were very clearly saying that this word amplification was very clearly given in the picture, and some of the students were saying that it was not given. But anyway, there is only one possibility or the answer for this particular question based on the picture which is given. It is nothing but amplification. It is amplification. And among the options which are provided, antibody testing, Western blot, RT-PCR and ELISA, where do you think is amplification being done? Yes, what is the answer? Yes, the answer is going to be RT-PCR, which is the real-time PCR. Basically, you all know that PCR means what? PCR means it's a method of amplifying the DNA. It's a method of amplifying DNA. Okay, so it's a straightforward question, and also remember RT-PCR is the test of choice in suspected COVID-19 infection. Just a little bit word about this real-time PCR and how it is different from the conventional PCR. Please remember, in conventional polymerase chain reaction or PCR, the results are known only when all the cycles are completed. Okay, when all the cycles of this PCR are completed, only then you are going to know the results. But in case of real-time PCR, as the name itself suggests, okay, you can get the data in an ongoing test itself. Okay, as and when the test is running, you can get a real-time estimation of the DNA samples. Okay, so that is the advantage of real-time PCR. Now, what do you need to know for what are the things which are required for real-time PCR is what I am going to tell you next briefly. The things required are the sample asset, which contains the virus cDNA. Well, you all know that coronavirus contains RNA. Then how the cDNA is obtained? It is very simple. RNA is undergoing reverse transcription to get converted to cDNA. Okay, and that is what is the sample. Okay, you also need to have something called as a small DNA fragments or a DNA primer, which will actually attach to this virus cDNA, and you got this free nucleotides as the last component. Okay, right. Now what you are going to do is that you are going to subject the sample to something called as denaturation. Okay, denaturation. Right. During the process of this denaturation, the two strands will get separated into single strands like this. Okay, two strands will get separated into single strands like this. This is what we call it as denaturation. Now next step is what we call it as the annealing step. Okay, in the annealing step, what is going to happen to this separated strands? This DNA primer will get attached. Are you able to follow? This DNA primer will get attached like this during the process of annealing. Okay, there are two separate strands. I am just showing only one strand here. Okay, now following this process, what is going to happen? The nucleotides will come and fill the remaining part of the DNA. Okay, something like this. Okay, this is already formed. Then what is going to happen? This free nucleotides will come and attach like this. Okay, right. So they form an actual copy of the cDNA itself. Now this will undergo detection. Now this part will undergo detection, and once the detection is done, okay, how it is undergoing detection? This is because these nucleotides, okay, they are labeled with a fluorescent substance, okay, something which illuminates, that is called as a labeled with a fluorescent substance. So what happened once this strand is getting completely formed, it will illuminate, okay, and that is how we are going to detect. That's how we are going to detect. Now when I go back to the picture, okay, you can see that there is a line which is written here. What is this line? This line is the threshold line. That means what? Above this, okay, we call it as a significant sample. That means what? Above this means that the test is positive. Okay, so you can see that the curves are going well above the threshold line, means that all the samples were positive. And one more very important advantage of this real-time PCR is you don't see only one line, you see so many curves, right? That means what? So many samples are being tested. In fact, a typical description is 96 well-plate RT-PCR. That means what? At a single point of time, you get around 96 samples being tested at the same time. Okay, so that means what? You get quicker results, number one. You also get lot of results in a very short span of time, and that is why RT-PCR is the best test for detection of COVID-19 infection at present. Let's move on to the next question. I'm sure that all of you must be knowing the answers. All of the following measures are useful against COVID-19 except hand wash definitely is useful. Face mask again is very important. 70% ethanol again is very important. Okay, and that is what is being advised, okay, in the hand sanitizers and all. Okay, so all these are important measures. So which is not going to be useful? The answer is going to be 2% glutaraldehyde. Please remember 2% glutaraldehyde is what we call it as a Sidex. Sidex is a very good disinfectant, but it is mostly useful for disinfection of the scopes. Okay, and please remember Sidex is very effective against the TB bacillus as well as the virus and fungi, but it is not going to be effective against COVID-19. Okay, other viruses of course yes, but not COVID-19. Okay, and most important question for you in the exam is, it is useful in the disinfection of scopes like endoscopes, bronchoscope, all the scopes it can be useful in disinfection. Okay, question is all except, so the answer is glutaraldehyde. Let's move on to the next question, a very important question in fact. I will tell you the answer first and then I will provide explanation. Biosafety level in lab testing for COVID-19 is what level? The answer is it's a level 2. The question is about lab testing for COVID-19. It is level 2 BSL or biosafety level. So basically, to give you an idea about what are this different levels of biosafety levels of BSL, I'll tell you in a simplified way. Please remember this BSL 1 is for a basic training and research. Okay, basic teaching or training and research. Now BSL 2 is also for primary level, or what we call it as a primary health services. Okay, primary lab testing services, that's what we call it as BSL 2. So point to be remembered is BSL 1 and 2 are basically basic lab facilities. Okay, that's what we call it as BSL 1 and 2. Now BSL 3 and 4 are called as containment type lab facility. Containment type lab facility, meaning that they are more secured, okay, or more dangerous type of lab testing. For example, BSL 3 comes under special diagnostic research. Special diagnostic research, not the usual testing. That's why the word special is very important. Special diagnostic research. BSL 4 is for isolation of a dangerous pathogen. Okay, something like isolation of Ebola. Something like isolation of Ebola. I'm just writing one example. Others could be the Marburg virus. All those things which are dangerous viruses. Okay, example is Ebola virus isolation. Okay, that is called BSL 4. So BSL 3 and 4, the key word to be remembered is containment, and BSL 3 it is special diagnostic research, whereas BSL 1 and 2 are basic lab facilities. Now talking about BSL 2 and 3 with respect to COVID-19, I would want you to remember two more important terms. One is called as a non-propagative, other one is a propagative diagnostic techniques. BSL 2 basically is non-propagative diagnostic works, which actually refers to the specimen packing or specimen transport and doing some laboratory works like sequencing or nucleic acid amplification testing or the PCR we were talking about previously. All these comes under non-propagative or BSL 2. The key word to be remembered is it is except culture testing. Very important point, because once the culture testing is mentioned or culture or isolation of the virus is mentioned, then it is automatically biosafety level 3. Okay, culture or isolation of the virus. Along with that, what else is included? Any work regarding the development of vaccine for COVID-19 is also included under BSL 3. Okay, so please remember the usual lab test like gene sequencing. Okay, let me write it, sequencing, CING, sequencing, or nucleic acid amplification or PCR, everything comes under BSL 2 except culture or isolation of virus, that is BSL 3. Any vaccine work is again categorized under BSL 3. The next question is regarding antibody levels in COVID-19 signifies which of the following? Window period, active viral load, risk of reinfection, previous infection in an asymptomatic person. Now, before I tell you the answer, let me just tell you some basic facts about this antibodies in COVID-19. These antibodies are against two important targets or two important parts of the virus. What are they? Two important proteins actually. One is the S protein, other is the N protein. What is this S protein? S protein is the spike protein, N protein is the nucleocapsid protein. Okay. Now, what are the two types of antibodies which you can commonly detect? One is the IgM, other one is the IgG antibody. Generally, remember, IgM usually appears after 5 days of infection. After 5 days, that is a key word to be noted. After 5 days of infection, whereas IgG usually appears after 10 days of infection. Okay, right. You can also remember like 1 week and 2 weeks. That's also okay. But I'm telling you the approximate number. Okay, IgM appears after 5 days and IgG after 10 days of infection. So the question is exactly what does the antibody level in COVID-19 tell you? Okay, answer for this question is option D. It signifies a previous infection in a asymptomatic person. We are not very sure about the option, but this is what most of the students were saying, that it was written as asymptomatic person and previous infection. Some of the students were also saying acute infection, recent infection, something like that. What antibody tells you is that it tells you that the person had somewhere an infection in the past. If it is an IgM antibody, it signifies that it's a recent infection. Okay, IgG antibody indicates that it's a little old infection, not very old, but a little older infection. Okay, so anyway, it indicates a previous infection in an asymptomatic person, and that is the best answer for this question. No way it is going to tell you about the viral load. Okay, for viral load, you have to look at the number of RNA copies, right? Okay, it is not the antibody level, so that is wrong. Window period, remember, window period is the period between the disappearance of the antigen and the appearance of antibody. So at the time, definitely antibody levels may not be significant. Remember, this option was confusing. Risk of reinfection. Please remember that if you have high levels of antibody, it doesn't mean at this time that you will not get a reinfection with COVID-19 because of insufficient data at this time to tell whether these antibodies actually protect you from development of a reinfection. Very limited data is available. So that is why this option is also deemed as incorrect at this point of time. So by eliminating all the other options, we can very clearly say that the answer for this question is previous infection in an asymptomatic person. IgM means a recent infection. IgG means a little old infection. That's all. Let's move on to the last question. Even though this question did not mention directly COVID-19 in the exam, they had asked obviously about COVID-19, especially at this point of time. Okay, let's see the question. Which of the following defines the period of limitation or restriction of freedom of movements of healthy people or goods beyond a period which is not longer than the longest usual incubation period to prevent the spread of disease? This was the exact question. Okay, options are isolation, absolute quarantine, surveillance and modified quarantine. Okay, probably a question from the PSM, but still we'll be discussing because it's relevant for the upcoming exams. The answer for this question is, remember the question, you have to know some keywords. What are they? It is limitation or restriction of healthy people. That is a point to be remembered. Whenever the word healthy people is mentioned, the option of isolation is not at all there, because isolation is only for infected persons, okay, or persons who are having some symptoms, okay, infected persons, or what we call it as a case. Case means somebody who is suffering from the infection, okay. That is where we use the word isolation. So healthy people itself will eliminate the option of isolation, okay, right. Now you've got three options. Obviously surveillance is monitoring, which will not be in this particular question, okay. You're just limiting the movement of the person, you're not monitoring the person actively, so it is not surveillance also. So there are only two options left, absolute quarantine or modified quarantine, okay. Remember this point, modified quarantine means it's a selective restriction or partial restriction of people, okay. Partial limitation of movements is what we call it as modified quarantine, okay, right. So where all do you think it can be applicable? Okay, it is something like restricting only certain group of people from moving around, okay. For example, restriction of children going to school, this is called modified quarantine. Restriction of military population to going to their respective post, then that is called modified quarantine, okay, right. Now, what we are following now, we are not following a modified quarantine. What we are following, and the answer for this question is absolute quarantine. Means every healthy person, okay, is restricted to move from one place to another, and this is not longer than the usual longest incubation period. This is called as absolute quarantine. So this question is a very, very important question for the upcoming exams also. So I want you to specially concentrate on this particular question. So thanks for watching. This video was only about the questions which came in the recent exam. In my next video, I'll be covering a little bit in depth about the pediatric COVID-19 infection. Please subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon to get notified of the new videos as and when they are posted to this channel. Please feel free to share with your friends, and if you have any doubts, please put up in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you all and wish you a very happy day.